What made me effective was that I wouldn't get involved in a business just to make money. I'm involved with a business because it's a mission. It's something that I think can change somebody's life. If you won't give a dime out of a dollar, don't bullshit yourself. You'll never give $1 million out of 10 million or 10 million out of 100 million. It's just not gonna happen. If you appreciate it, there'll be compassion, and where there's compassion, there is love. Compassion means you care passionately.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 and 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 and 9. This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch your top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to add more value, feed your mind, and take action first with Tony Robbins and my take on his top 10 rules of success to give you the confidence, motivation, and belief that you need. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule #1. Add more value.
What made me effective was that I wouldn't get involved in a business just to make money. I'm involved with a business because it's a mission. It's something that I think can change somebody's life. And whether it's something as simple as stem cell business, or whether it's LAFC, a soccer team I own, or whether it's a resort in Fiji, I try to do something that's going to change their lives. And the whole focus in business is add more value. There is no other rule. If you do more for others than anybody else does in the marketplace, you'll build a brand. People get on their knees and reach behind a soda pop to get a Coca-Cola, even though Coke doesn't win most of the taste tests. It is the brand. You will become the brand if you can do more for others than anybody else does. And I hope that your audience, the reason they're listening to you, is to figure out how to add more and more value to the marketplace.
Rule #2, take action first.
What is it that prevents people from doing the things they already want to do in life?
The most basic answer, I'm sorry it's so simple, but it's true, it's fear. You know, people making this complex process. This woman was telling me that I don't understand why they don't do this, why I feel this way. I said, it's called fear. Everybody's afraid we're not enough. Everybody's afraid we're not rich enough, smart enough, young enough, quick enough, fast enough. It's human nature. But the secret is to do it anyway. I know that sounds so simplistic. My work when I'm working with somebody is showing them how to condition themselves, like building a muscle, so that you take action first, automatically. Because if you don't do that, it's hard. You lose momentum. It's like, how do I get started? Where do I go? And I tell people, throw a rock, wherever it drops, start there. The next person walks by, I go, you're the first person after the rock. Do anything to start the process of moving forward rather than let fear stop you.
Rule #3, feed your mind.
I developed this little system, and the system is really simple. And I tell people now, as I say, #1, every single day, you got to feed and strengthen your mind. Until you do that, you're always going to be in fear. Because fear is automatic. The human brain is designed for survival. It's not designed for success. Your brain is not designed to make you happy. That's your job. Right. And the only way you're going to do it is if you feed your mind, because otherwise, weeds grow automatically. My coach, my mentor, Jim Rohn, used to tell me, so Tony, every day you got to stand guard at the door of your mind. You got to watch what's going in, because if you're not careful, stuff will go in. And he said, not all the times it's somebody who cares about you. He said, you know, if your
family,
if your worst enemy puts sugar in your coffee, he said, what happens? I said, you got sweet coffee. He goes, what if your best friend by accident, or your family, don't mean to, they drop 1 drop of strychnine in your coffee, you're dead. He said, so life, sugar, and strychnine, and watch a coffee, right? Right. So every day I decided, I'm old enough, honestly, there was no internet those days. I'm pretty ancient. I used to go to the library because it's the only place you go. And I'd read biographies. I'd read people's lives, and it'd make me go, wait a second, as bad as I think it is, the greatest people in the world had it worse. Sure. So there's something here. So you feed your mind. Jim Rohn used to say to me, skip a meal, but don't skip reading. He said, read 30 minutes a day. I don't give a damn what it is. And today, I don't mean internet crap. I mean, read something, a biography, read something that's a strategy, read something that's going to change your life.
Rule #4, redefine love.
You deserve to be loved, even if you need to do something for yourself. Because real love doesn't have conditions. Real love takes joy when someone is happy, whatever it takes, even if it means being apart from you for a period of time or even forever. Otherwise, it's not love. It's the selfish desire to get what you want, whether it makes someone else happy or not. Some of you are in relationships where you're committed to the ship and not the relations. You're committed to the institution and you forgot the person, because you don't even meet the person anymore. You meet your story about the person because you've told it to yourself so many times, so everything is seen through that filter. If you think someone is your dear, dear friend and they're loving and they're generous and they're a beautiful soul and one day they treat you like you'll be shocked and you'll be angry. And if you can't resolve it and you have to leave to go deal with something, you'll generalize their behavior later on. And you'll say they're probably having a bad, what? How many of you had a day where you hope somebody generalized your behavior as just a bad day? But if somebody, you think that they don't care, or they're selfish, or they're mean because you've generalized about the human being. Because by the way, you can find selfishness in anybody if you look for it, including yourself. Whatever you look for, you're going to find. Can you find beauty? Can you find love? Can you find generosity in any human being, yes or no?
Also, if you want to have more confidence and self-love, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
So while you're in this passionate state, that's where you make decisions. My very first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I want to get my head right. I do this thing called priming. 40% of all jobs they project in the next 10 years are going to disappear because of technology.
Rule number 5, focus on giving, not receiving.
I had a moment like when my whole life changed. It was kind of twofold. I was really young, like yourself back then, right? Working my tail off, trying to build a business. I mean, you have big goals, you don't always succeed to start with. It just come together, right? It was hard. And I remember I was so frustrated because I was working 18-hour days and nothing was working and I was broke and I felt embarrassed, I should be doing better than this. Sure. And so I was driving home from Orange County on the 57th freeway in San Gabriel Valley out near a place in Pomona, California. It probably doesn't know anybody else, but I can remember it so vividly because it was almost midnight. And I was at this breaking point. And then I was like, why am I not, doing better? And then I just pulled over the road and I used to keep these journals. I still have them, written journals. And I wrote in big lines, the secret to living is giving. And I started to cry. And I realized I am so focused on what am I not getting. Receiving. I'm not focusing on what I'm giving. Yeah. So for 6 months, man, it turned me around. But then, something else to get in your body. It was in my head, it was in my heart, but it had to get in there to stay. And I started going through some really tough times. And I lost everything financially. And I was mad at everybody because I'd loaned a friend $1,000 and, I'd been doing well. And he didn't even return my phone call. Oh. And what changed me was I was down to, $22, $23, something like that. I don't know, it was $24. Enough that I knew that I didn't have money for food for the next week, clearly. And I didn't have any prospects. And I was living in Venice in this 400 square foot bachelor apartment, feeling sorry for myself, getting pissed off. And I thought, you know what, I got to eat. So I'm not going to drive my car because I'm not going to spend the gas. I'm not going to pay for parking. Sure. I'm going to go to an all-you-can-eat place and load up for the winter, right? So I can get more, like one meal a day. Right. And so there's a place called Marina del Rey, not far from Venice. And it's a beautiful community, and it's right on the water. And there's a place called El Chorrito. It's still there. It's a little restaurant. It had taco bar and all that kind of stuff. So I walked there for the 3 miles, and I go, okay, I'm going to go and load up. And I was all about myself and getting through this. And this woman walked through the door, actually a very attractive lady. That's probably why I caught my attention. And I'm waiting to see who her boyfriend is, and there's nobody up there. There's a little guy down here. It was obviously her son. And he's wearing this 3-piece suit, a little vest. He opens the door for her. He pulls out the chair for her. And it was just, he stared into his mother's eyes. I mean, it was just pierced into her eyes. I don't know what it was, but something about him was just so moving. He was such a sweet, caring, loving young man to his mother that moved me. So I paid for my meal. I don't know what was left, $17, $18. Put it back in my pocket, was left. Walked up to this young man, introduced myself, and I said, hi, I don't remember his name. I think he said his name was Ronnie. And I said, Ronnie, you're a class actor. I saw how you opened the door for your lady. I saw how you held out the chair for your lady. He goes, she's my mom. I said, that's even more classy. Right. And I said, so cool that you're taking her out to lunch like this. And he goes, well, I'm not really taking her lunch because I'm just 11 and I don't have a job, Right. I said, yes, you are. And I had no plan. I just reached in my pocket, took all the money I had, changed dollar bills, and threw it right there in front of him. He looked at me like this. He goes, I can't take that. I said, sure you can. He said, well, why? I said, because I'm bigger than you are. Right? And he got this big grin on his face. His eyes got this big. And I just shook his hand. I didn't even look at his mom. And I just walked out the door. But the reason I tell you the story is I had no car. I had no money. I was euphoric. I was like flying home. I mean, it was like, I probably looked like an idiot, probably skipping or something. I mean, I was just, and what I felt was, I should have been like, what the hell did you just do? I have no meal, or I wasn't going to eat. Right. I went home that night, I laid out a plan, and the plan was going to take me, 10 days, 2 weeks. So I thought, well, people fast for a week. I could fast for a week, that type of thing. And I was this great mindset about it. And I woke up the next morning, and I get the old regular snail mail shows up. And it's this guy I've called a zillion times who wouldn't return my call. I open it up, there's a check, $1,000 plus interest and an apology. Wow. So I'm sitting there And I started to cry, honestly, and I was just like, why did this happen, you know? And I don't know if it's true, but I decided that day this happened because I did the right thing. Because I didn't have a plan, it wasn't a strategy, I just felt this little soul beside me, I knew it was right, and I did it. And I didn't do it because I thought I could or I couldn't. I didn't even think about it. And that's the day I became a wealthy man, because I didn't have any money, but scarcity left my body. And I had plenty of ups and downs since that time in various times in my life, but I never went back to that, oh my God, you know, how's it gonna happen? It's like breathing. Do you stop and say, God, is there gonna be any air before you take a breath? You know it's gonna be there.
Right.
You don't run your life by that aspect. And so that to me is what it's about, is showing people, if you won't give a dime out of a dollar, don't bullshit yourself. You'll never give $1 million out of 10 million or 10 million out of 100 million. It's just not going to happen. But if you can do that now, you don't ever get beyond scarcity. You start behind it. You make a decision to get beyond it.
Rule number 6, focus on diversity.
How much do you advise understanding the individual companies, or should it just be kind of set it, forget it, buy the index, look at it once a year, then don't worry about it?
I don't think you want to just do the index because you want to have different asset classes. If you look at the best investors in the world, they all understand that they're going to be wrong. You've talked to Ray Dalio, the greatest hedge fund investor in the history of the world. Guy made a fortune in 2008 when everyone else was losing money. And what does he tell you? He says, Tony, you have to have money in each different asset class because different environments, the environments will change. No matter how smart people think they are, they're going to be wrong. And you got to structure yourself so you're able to make money no matter what. So you don't want just, the index. But what you do want to do is you do not want to be probably somebody who's trying to evaluate individual stocks. That's really, somebody who's going to try and be a trader. And in most cases, that's not going to work. Now, if you're Warren Buffett, that's a different piece. But maybe better to invest with Warren Buffett, who's better at selection than you are, than you trying to do it. Stock picking, nobody wins at it. The best in the world don't win. You got people that are supposed to be the best hedge fund guys on earth, and what's their track record of the last 7 years? It's pathetic. They've not even matched the market, right? And so that's why you've seen this shakeup in the hedge fund industry. Because after you pay for fees, even with their brilliant minds, you end up lower than if you just own the market itself. So the answer to your question is you need to diversify. Every investor believes in diversification across multiple elements. In other words, you don't want to just buy real estate. You want different assets or just the index like you described. That's a disaster because there'll be times when the index will get hit and you need something to balance it out. If you're only in one place, you're going to get hurt and the pain will be so strong you'll probably sell and then have a permanent wound or a permanent problem. You don't want that to happen. So you need diversity across different assets. You don't want just one giant piece of real estate. You want diversity within asset classes. So multiple pieces of real estate or owning the index is the example. You want diversification across different economies, and you want diversification across time.
Rule number 7, have compassion.
And the next time you're throwing a judgment on someone else, remind yourself why you're doing it. You're doing it because you're uncertain. You're doing it because you feel insignificant. You're doing it because you feel disconnected, but you're the one making yourself insignificant and uncertain and disconnected. Because all that would disappear if you entered their world and tried to understand or appreciate. Not understand intellectually, that's why I say appreciate what they're going through. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. But if you appreciate it, there'll be compassion, and where there's compassion, there is love. Compassion means you care passionately. That's where it comes from. Not really, but I made it up. It sounded good, didn't it? It was really good.
Rule number 8, change your state.
If somebody is, we were mentioning earlier, if somebody is really stressed out, they're not stressed out for no reason. It's because they're focusing on something that makes them feel stressed. They often, when they're focusing on it, it changes the body. You start to feel tight. You start to feel a certain way. And then they use language like, I don't know what to do. Why am I so overwhelmed? So 3 things control how you feel every moment. What you focus on, what you do with your body. If your shoulders are down, if you're breathing like, it's not hard to figure out. You're not going to be in a very resourceful state. If I take that same person and I change their body radically, I get them to talk at a different tempo, I get them to move their body differently. I've taught this for, 41 years. 3 years ago at Harvard, they did a study on power postures where they showed that if you stand like this with your hands on your hips like Superman or Wonder Woman, or if you lean back like this like the guy is obnoxious at the office and do this, it literally changes your testosterone by 25% within 2 minutes. It reduces cortisol, which you know is the stress hormone, by 30%, and you're 33% more likely to take an action. So if we change what we focus on, if we change the way we use our body, if we change our language patterns, we'll instantly feel different. Think it's how do people use their body when they're worried versus when they're excited? Yeah. If you learn to use your body first, use your focus first, you can literally change how you feel in moments, and then you develop new habits where you start to feel good all the time, and it isn't some phony fake pump up. It's literally the way you've conditioned your body. Just like being fit as an athlete, you want to be emotionally fit.
Rule number 9, aim high.
There's no way that you're going to get a secure environment. The whole idea is to build your money up, build your assets up, and eventually have the income take care of you for the rest of your life. The only reason you invest is for income. Income will buy you your trips. It'll put your kids through college. It'll pay for your home. It'll give you food. People think they want assets. Assets can go up and down for any period of time. So you want to put it in a secure place at some place where the income provides all you need for the rest of your life. Well, pretty hard to do that if you're putting that in an environment where you're trying to get 10%. It's not going to happen. So you really need 20 times your income. That's really the number that most people should be utilizing, which doesn't sound very compelling. But when you understand compounding, like, $300 a month for 8 years turns into 1.8 million, never put another dime in, you start to go, maybe I can still win this game. We don't think geometrically. We think, step at a time. And the way stocks work, or the way any investment works, there's compounding, and the compounding is the greatest gift that we have.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is help others.
My family was fed when I was 11. We had no food at Thanksgiving, and it touched me so deeply, and I decided I was going to give back. So when I was 17, I fed 2 families, and then 4, and then 8, and then I didn't tell me I was doing it, and then I got my friends to do it, and my companies grew, and I've fed 42 million people now over 37 years. And
but you have a challenge for this, right?
This one, what I did is I decided, I'm writing this book, and in the middle of writing it, last summer, most people didn't even notice, Congress cut food stamps. They don't call it food stamps anymore, but I lived on them, so I know what they are, food stamps, with my family. Family lived on them. But they cut it by 8.7 billion, which means you eliminate 2 million people from the rolls overnight, and they still need to eat. Wow. So I support all these nonprofit organizations, and Feeding America is the largest in the country. And so I thought, I want to call attention to this. So if I donated all the profits of this book in advance, how many people could I feed? Because I normally feed 2 million through my foundation, and I match it. So we feed 4 million a year. And they said you could feed 10 million people. I was like, wow, I'm in. Wow. and then as the years gone by, I've gotten more and more inspired. And so now I'm going to feed 50 million people personally, not just from the book. I'm writing a larger check on top of it. But also, I'm working with Feeding America to get matching funds to feed 100 million people.
Incredible.
So to go from my family not being able to eat to feeding 100 million people is a pretty amazing sense of gratitude and a sense of grace. And I've done my part, but there's been grace in that as well.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Tony on how to grow spiritually that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. How will you help someone else this week? Number 2. Where do you need to aim higher with your goals? And number 3. Who do you need to have more compassion for today? And if you made it this far in a video and you are committed to making a change, I want to celebrate you. Give me a hashtag believe down in the comments as well.
When you love conditionally, who always gets hurt? You do, because we do, because when you love conditionally, it feels like a trade, right? I love you as long as, and the person knows that at some level. And so they can't really love back because it isn't love. It's manipulation. I'll be nice to you if you give me this. I'll love you as long as you behave the way I want. As long as you speak the way I want you to speak. As long as you agree with me. As long as you follow my rules, the blue rules that make me comfortable, then I'll love you. But that's not love. That's you just finding a way to meet your own needs for certainty and significance. There's nothing wrong with that. It just leaves you empty and creates lots of pain. How many see? So the only way out of pain is more spiritual growth. And as simplistic as that sounds or overgeneralized, spiritual growth just means seeing more of life than just your self, right? What is this increase in consciousness? I hate the term because it's so overused by people. A lot of people use it to, I'm so conscious. That's significance talking. But consciousness is caring. When you're egocentric, all you care about is yourself. And we're all egocentric if we get in enough fear, enough survival. And kids are all egocentric. People say kids are so loving. Bullshit. They're loving when you give them what they want. Otherwise, they scream their ass off. But we love them because we're drugged. Drugged by natural goods. Oxytocin, it's our child. We love them no matter what. It's a beautiful thing. Otherwise, kids wouldn't survive because they're selfish. But we don't see it, thank God. But we need to grow. By the way, why, when you're a child, you get love for no matter what you do, you get loved until oxytocin wears off. And then all of a sudden, the rest of your life, you got to earn it and shit. Because if life always just gave you what you wanted all the time, you'd never grow spiritually. It would all be me, 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 me. And yet, we've all been loved so deeply because we know it's there. But we're supposed to know it's there, not so we go get it, so we go get it out of ourselves and give it.
If you want 10 more rules from Tony Robbins, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.